Alrighty, so we're gonna start with this problem, which is already posted on the TikTok website, which you're already seeing. So I'd give you the opportunity to solve now. If you see a problem like that on the exam, that's part of the first five um, questions on the GED. All right. So how do you approach a problem like this? You have decimals and you have fractions. Okay, the best way to approach a problem like that is to make sure everything is in the same format, meaning you need to have all of the simple, all of the problems in the same format, all of them as decimals or all of them as fractions. The easiest way is to put them as decimals, the fractions, and then to compare the decimals to put them from least to greatest, right? From the smallest decimal to the highest decimals. Now, how do we change a fraction to a decimal? Remember, a fraction is pretty much dividing, right? Is a division. Okay, so we're gonna just divide 5 by 8 and divide 3 by 5. Now let me write that. So we're gonna do 5 divided by 8. So you know regular divisions, 5 divided by 8. So the numerator will always go inside, and the denominator, like the divisor, will always go outside, right? As you can see right there. Okay, so numerator inside, denominator outside. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so how many times does 8 goes into 5? Well, 8 cannot really go into 5 because 5 is too small. So it would be 0 time. And then if we want to continue, we add a 0 and we put a decimal point, right? Because there are no other numbers. And if we add a number in the back of the 5, that means it has to go into the decimals, right? Now, how many times does 8 goes into 50? Well, you by now you should know your timetable, right? So 8 times 6 is 48. That's the closest number. So 6 times, that's 48, right? 6 times 8, 48. Now we subtract, we get 2. Now, if we want to continue again, since we have no other numbers, we add a 0 to continue. Boom. Now, 8 goes into 20, 2 times. So 2 times 8 is 16, right? Subtract, remainder 4. Now we're going to do it again. 8 goes into 40. We add a 0 to continue since we have no other numbers. So 8 goes into 40 how many times? 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. 40 take away 40 is 0. So the decimal for 5 over 8 is 0.625, right? Or 625 thousandth, right? 625 thousandth. So we can write that underneath 0.625. Now we're gonna do the same step for 3 over 5, right? So we know that the 3 goes in, the 5 goes out. So let's do it in the corner right here. 3 goes in, 5 goes out. 5 goes into 3. How many times? Well, 0 time. Because 5 cannot go into 3. 3 is too small. Then to continue, we put a decimal point and a 0 to continue. Now 5 goes into 36 times. Boom, right? So 6 times 5 is 30. And 30 take away 30 is 0. So that's what we have left, right? So we have 0.6 or 0.60, right? If we want to, we can put a 0 as many zeros in the back of the 6, right? If we want to make it have 3 decimal places. So now we have 0.6, 0.6 right there. Okay. So now we can compare the decimals from least to greatest. Notice that two of them have 2 decimals and one has 3 decimals, which is 5 over 8. So what we can do to make sure they all have the same amount of decimals, we can just add zeros, right, in the back of the other decimals to make sure they all have three decimals, right? Like 0.65, we can write it as 0.650, right? 0.650. And then 0.625 is already has right on three decimal places. 0.8 will be 0.800, right? We just add as many zeros as we need. 0.6 is 0.600. Boom. 0.55 is 0. My apologies. Let me go back one step. 0.55. So I add a zero, just like this, right? So now I can compare all the decimals, right? From least to greatest. When I look at all of them, this is 650, 625, 800, 600, 550. So the smallest one is 550. So I can put a 1 next to it. 550, right, is the smallest one. Then the next one gonna be 600. Then the one after that gonna be 625. Then the one after that gonna be 650. Then the one after that gonna be the 800 from least to greatest. All right. So we now the 625 as a fraction is 5 over 8, so we can put that next to it, right? 625 as a fractions, that's 5 over 8, right? And then the 600 is 3 over 5. 3 over 5. Now, for the GED on the exam, you won't have a calculator for that, right? You won't have a calculator. So you need to learn how to divide fractions. So now we're going to put them from least to greatest. So the first one is 0.55, right? Okay, so this one is correct. This one is correct. These are incorrect. You see, I can already eliminate some of the answers, right? I can already get rid of them. Then the next one is the 3/5. Okay, 3/5. Oh, look, right here. I already know my answer. But just to make sure, we're gonna check, for the rest of the numbers. So I see 3/5 right there as number two. The third answer is the 5/8, which is 0.625. 5/8, 0.625. Okay, we got that. Okay. And then so once you begin to get those numbers, in order like that, you don't even need to continue to compare. You know that D is your answer, right? And then you would select D as your answer and move on to the next problem on the exam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment, and then I'll address them for you. Until the next problem. All right. So have a wonderful night. God bless you.